creators of Relevant Magazine, this is the Relevant Podcast.
You can find me with the sinners, the rebels and the dreamers, those hidden in the darkness, a glimpse of light. Take me where it hurts the hardest, how dangerous your love is. You can find me with the sinners, where you gave your life.
It's Tuesday, September 17th, 2019, and it's the Relevant Podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Strang, and here with me in our Orlando studios on the ones and twos, our illustrious brother, Chandler Strang.
Hello.
On the Skype line from Loverland, Virginia, Jesse Carey.
Hello, hello.
All the way in Paris, France, our senior editor, Tyler Huckabee.
Bonjour, et ça va, everybody.
And Nashville, Tennessee, author, speaker, podcaster, cowgirl extraordinaire, Annie F. Downs.
Good morning, gents.
Before we get going, I want to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by David Platt's new book, Something Needs to Change. Life's hardest questions don't just demand answers, they require action. David Platt, who's a pastor and best-selling author and founder of Radical Inc., came to this realization as he witnessed urgent spiritual and physical needs during a trek through some of the highest mountains in the world. His new book, Something Needs to Change, describes his journey and invites you to see how God desires to use your life in greater ways than you've ever imagined. You can pick up your copy of Something Needs to Change. It's in bookstores everywhere now. Go do it.
You guys, it's one of the top 3 books I've read in the last year. No kidding.
Oh, wow.
He's on my podcast this week, so I read the whole. I mean, it's. You have to read it. I'm talking to y'all and to everyone listening, but to you guys, I think y'all would love it.
Wow. Yeah, he wrote a really good original piece for us in the new issue of the mag. And even just reading that, it was super challenging.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's so human in this book. Like you watch him wrestle in ways that I feel like we haven't been privy to before. And it is absolutely beautiful. I cried on the treadmill.
Was it that scene where he was on the mountaintop wrestling with the Sherpa? Because the Sherpa wouldn't give him his power bar that he was wanting, and he was trying to ration it, and then he took him out. I was moved to tears.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was shocked.
You are legitimately the worst.
I was shocked at the confessions he made. Homicide on the mountainside. Shocking book. Shocking.
Oh,
very unexpected from him.
I didn't intend for him to talk with us about them so honestly. I saw his lawyer in the background just making a weird cutting motion across his neck, but I don't know what that meant. I don't know if that's a weird thing they just do. Is that a pastor thing, Annie?
What I didn't expect was that every chapter was really just a story about a time he wrestled with somebody. All the different times he had conflict and found himself wrestling.
Wrestle it up. Wrestle it up. That's my church.
Something needs to change. It's in stores now. Hey, we have a great show in store for you today. Coming up later, Malcolm Gladwell joins us. He's coming on to discuss how a teaching of Jesus actually can help us solve some of the world's most difficult problems. He is the cover of issue 101 of Relevant, which is hitting mailboxes right now. And we will tell you about the new issue coming up as well. And obviously have a conversation with Malcolm Gladwell. That's going to be a lot of fun. Lots of good content on today's show.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of good content.
Jam-packed show. Jam-packed.
We're going to wrestle later with... Not with just topics and big things, but literally at the end of the show, Jesse and I are going to wrestle.
Yeah,
so,
it's no holds
via
barred.
Skype, it's really gross.
It's confusing. Annie and I will be there to narrate it in the style of 2 professional wrestler commentators. We'll just give you the play-by-play. We will be honest in our reporting.
Yeah,
we will not make anything up. We won't exaggerate it. We're just going to give you, and it's a winner-take-all thing. And the winner will host next week's episode.
It's a cage match. It's 2 men enter, 1 man leave. Yeah.
If this gets edited somehow, y'all can know that whoever hosts this episode on Friday was the winner.
Yeah. Tyler, how's Paris? You've been over there in a few weeks now. Are you acclimating?
We're kicking off. I guess today is 2 weeks. Yeah. So yeah.
Have you gotten used to living in the future? You're just ahead of us.
I can't say too much because I don't want to break the space-time continuum.
Right.
I would advise you all to invest right now in some flotation devices. I don't want to say anything more beyond that, but you're gonna want a boat.
Well, y'all know I keep a float in my trunk all the time. Pearl, the summertime Pegasus float, is always in my trunk. So I'll go blow her up and just be ready.
Do you have a pump as well? Because that is
100%.
Okay.
In the
I was
car.
gonna say.
Good.
But
Yes,
name a
in my trunk
scenario
at all times.
Name a scenario where you need an emergency Pegasus float.
Name one where you don't.
Like I said, I don't want to say too much. Like I said, I
All
can't.
scenarios.
At first, Andy, I thought like you had a float in your car in case like you accidentally like drive off a bridge or something, and you find yourself
that's a
in
great
the need
idea.
of some sort of life
Yeah,
saving
but you
device.
can't pump her up that quick. No.
Well, but like, I mean, maybe you could, maybe while you're sitting there floating in the river, but it's not a very dignified way to get rescued.
No.
I guess
They
that's
have
true.
this thing, this big event here at the beach. It's unofficial, and it caused a lot of problems this year because people weren't very well behaved. It was called Floatopia, and everyone goes and it's a big party, but everyone brings a float. Well, somebody I don't know if I told the story before. Somebody let's just say got overserved that day.
Yeah.
And ended up
I know this story.
at the Floatopia. And ended up, dozing off on their float and woke up pretty far out at sea, like way, way off in the distance, like too far to swim. He had to get rescued by the Coast Guard. And he was floating on a giant taco, like not a very dignified thing. Like the Coast Guard had to come and save this guy who's stranded on a taco in the middle of the Chesapeake Bay. Not a great look.
What would be the
great.
most embarrassing flotation device?
Maybe
to
a big
be
poo
stranded
emoji.
with?
I thought about that.
The poop
I
emoji?
think, I don't know. I think the Andy on The Office when he floated away in the samurai.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point.
Samurai
When did he
outfit.
float away in? I don't remember it.
They were doing the sumo wrestling and the big inflatable sumo outfits, and he rolled away and was floating and just calling for help, but he found himself in the weeds across the lake. So just there.
Because that really takes all the limbs out of play at that point.
Yeah.
just stuck,
I just don't. I mean, I don't know that there's a level of. I don't know that there's a float that I'd be embarrassed to be found with, but I would be embarrassed to be floating out so far I had to be rescued. Full stop.
Sure,
I'd be embarrassed to get. I'm embarrassed at the idea of being rescued ever.
Yeah.
It is. It's humbling. I'd rather die. Just leave me. Leave me with my dignity intact.
I do want to note one other thing about Tyler's new location. It is he had to change his Airbnb because
it's true.
You did?
True. Yeah.
Not only was it a very weird layout and stairs clearly up to code and weird adult themed French literature strewn around the house.
All true.
You're in a new spot. What's going on?
Yeah, Huck, I don't know this.
He moved into what is definitely a haunted old monastery. Is that from the 1600s? Is that not true, Huck?
100% haunted. 100%. It was an upgrade for sure. But we are the place
when
that
haunted
I'm
is the
in,
upgrade.
Yeah. Well, you saw the stairs.
Yeah. Is that really why y'all switched? Just because of the stairs?
The stairs were not the only reason, but we are in a new place. This was originally apparently this building started out as a monastery, right? So haunted, obviously, but that was many years ago. That was before United States even existed, and then it was a brothel, or as the owner called it, a hooker home. I don't know if that's a direct translation.
That is a complicated amount of ghosts you got in there. That's a complicated group of ghosts.
The ghosts are so busy fighting each other that I don't think we're fine. They got to get their own stuff figured out before they start haunting us. And
I was going to say, how many nights have you awoken and there's just a weird old monk floating in the corner of your room? Is that pretty much every night or every other night?
Just rubbing his temples like, we got to find a new place to haunt. This is just irritating.
We got a bunch of Americans in here. Oh gosh, we need a new cool.
They don't even speak
place
our
to
language, so we can't really give them any messages. No spooky messages from beyond the grave. Like I wake up and I find like blood on the mirror that spells out like n'est pas something. Hang on,
listen,
I've got my Google Translator somewhere
I don't speak
here.
French.
You're gonna have to speak more clearly, spooky old monk, because I know what you're going for, but I have no idea what you're saying. I have no idea.
Is this a message for help? Is this just menacing? Do you need something?
Listen, I'm just gonna ignore you and turn on Jerry Lewis movies all day because this is
so. Do you? Okay. Jesse and Annie,
Yeah.
you're the conspiracy theorists here.
Yes.
You watch
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Ghost Hunter TV shows. I
0%.
believe in the spiritual realm, obviously.
Yeah.
There's,
Yeah.
I mean, demons and angels and all the things. Do you believe in ghosts?
I don't think I believe in ghosts, but I do think the realm beyond ours is more mysterious than we understand. I don't necessarily believe that when people die, that their presence is trapped in some sort of physical location. But I do think
that's tough for
our
me
understanding of the
scripturally.
supernatural is very elementary. And I do feel like this. I'm glad you asked this question, actually, because I think, in real talk, I honestly feel like churches ignore this kind of stuff. I have never once heard a sermon about ghosts. Not one time. And you can't tell me people don't think about it. Like, everyone's curious about ghosts. It would be a fascinating sermon. Like, when we get so many of these, like, if I'm scrolling Instagram, right? And you have like a preacher and he's on there, take down the Goliath in your life today, all this inspirational stuff. I want one where he's like, diving into a 15-second rant about ghosts in the Bible. I would totally listen to that sermon.
Are there ghosts in the Bible?
Yes, there are ghosts in the Bible.
Yeah. How are ghosts in the Bible?
There are totally ghosts in the Bible.
Yeah.
No one's talking about it. They don't I've always wanted a sermon about aliens, and I've always wanted a sermon about ghosts. You can roll them up for Halloween weekend. It would be the spookiest sermon. It would be a sermon series about cryptozoology.
Yeah.
Okay. Because honestly, hold on. I'm not done here, Annie. Annie, let me finish this. Let me finish
You're
this
never
point.
done. We just have to interrupt at some point.
Let me finish this point real quick. You could do a legit sermon series on cryptozoology because there's a lot of theories about giants and the Nephilim. Okay.
Yeah.
If you go down these rabbit holes and listen to these weird podcasts that I do from time to time, there's a lot of biblical stuff with cryptozoology. You could have that one week. You have aliens the next, and you could have ghosts. And that would be, I would not like some Sunday mornings. I'm like, I don't know if I'm really tired. We could just do brunch today. We'll just, do a little family Bible study and I'll play hooky. If it was supernatural sermon series, I am front and center. I'm taking notes. I never take notes in church. I doodle on the bulletins. I'm not a note taker. Okay. I just absorb it. I would be furiously taking notes every week, asking questions in the middle of the sermon. I would come up for prayer.
Asking questions.
I would come up for
prayer
for ministry time. I would come up and be
bless
like,
the
I'm very unsettled by the exploration of the dark side. I'm going to need prayer today. Why is this ignored in the church? I'm
Where
so
are
glad
there
you brought
ghosts
this
in the
up.
Bible? What are you talking about?
Tyler, okay, I'm gonna look it up
There's a
because we
few.
actually
There are a few of them. Yeah. I think we've done this. We've done this article. We try to be the change we want to see in the church. Here, so we're not at fault here. We don't.
Are y'all talking about like Moses and Elijah on the mountain with Jesus? Are you calling that a
we're
ghost
talking.
visitation?
No. We're talking about actual ghosts. Like,
No, y'all are making stuff up.
No. In the Old Testament, I'm gonna have to look up the article because this is why we need more sermons about it. Because I should be able to read. If someone said, "Hey, what's a verse I can read about serving the poor?" Oh, you should read James. Oh, what about salvation? Oh, you should check out Romans. Oh, what about this? What about the teachings of Christ? Oh, the Sermon on the Mount. What about the good story about ghosts? Guess what? You've left me ill-equipped, church. I went to Christian high school. I went to Christian college, and I got no idea where the ghost verses are on top of my head. You have failed us.
Yeah, I don't know where to go from here. I thought you were looking up ghosts for me.
There are verses in the Bible that kind of they loosely could be interpreted as to like this doesn't really fit in with the standard like heaven, hell, evangelical fundy end times theory, right?
First Samuel 28, Saul talks with Samuel's ghost.
Yep.
Does it say ghost?
According to BibleGateway.com, it does. That's the word they use. BibleGateway.com is pretty
Bible
conservative. The B head and the CEV, Contemporary English Version, in the scripture is 1 Samuel 28. Saul talks with Samuel's ghost.
Yeah, and he visited the witch of Endor, who was a medium who talked with the dead. Like, that is literally in the Bible.
It says Samuel had died.
Bible
This is
witches.
verse 1. 1 Samuel 28, verse 1. Samuel had died sometime earlier, and people from all over Israel had attended his funeral in his hometown of Ramah. Meanwhile, Saul had been trying to get rid of everyone who spoke to the spirits of the dead. But one day, the Philistines brought their soldiers together to attack Israel. Achish told David, "Of course you know that you and your men must fight as part of our Philistine army." David answered, "That will give you a chance to see for yourself just how well we can fight." "In that case," Achish said, "you and your men will always be my bodyguards." Scanning ahead. Okay. The Philistines went to Shunem, this is verse 4, and set up camp. Saul called the army of Israel together, and they set up their camp in Gilboa. Saul took one look at the Philistine army and started shaking with fear, so he asked the Lord what to do. But the Lord wouldn't answer, either in a dream or by a priest or a prophet. Then Saul told his officers, "Find me a woman who can talk to the spirits of the dead. I'll go to her and find out what's going on." His servants told him, "There's a woman at Endor who can talk to the spirits of the dead." That night, Saul put on different clothing so nobody would recognize him.
People should see Jesse's eyes right now.
Then he and two of his men
Satisfied.
went to the woman and asked, "Will you bring up the ghost of someone for us?" The woman said, "Why are you trying to trick me and get me killed? You know King Saul has gotten rid of everyone who talks to the spirits of the dead." Saul replied, "I swear by the living Lord that nothing will happen to you because of this." "Who do you want me to bring up?" she asked. "Bring up the ghost of Samuel," he answered. When the woman saw Samuel, she screamed. Then she turned to Saul and said, "You've tricked me. You're the king." "Don't be afraid," Saul replied. "Just tell me what you see." She answered, "I see a spirit rising up out of the ground." "What does it look like?" "It looks like an old man wearing a robe." Saul knew it was Samuel, so he bowed down low. "Why are you bothering me by bringing me up like this?" Samuel asked. "I'm terribly worried," Saul answered. "The Philistines are about to attack me. God has turned his back on me and won't answer any more prophets or by dreams. What should I do?" And then Samuel started talking to him, and it goes on from there.
So Annie, we have in the Bible a sweet meeting with a ghost. Okay?
Yeah, I stand
evangelical
corrected.
industrial complex sweeps under the rug. No one wants to talk about ghosts. You know,
gosh.
one time, this is true. One time my past.
Are we officially saying that Christian theology is that ghosts are real because it's in Scripture? Is that what we're saying?
I'm saying I'm poorly equipped to answer that question because pastors have just ignored it. They've ignored all
Can we
three
push
of those
the science
topics.
mic button on this one?
No,
this
hold
feels
on.
like a science mic button.
No, this is not science. This is outside of his wheelhouse. This is why we need ghost theologians. Like
Nothing is outside of Science Mike's wheelhouse.
No, one time my pastor, he had an idea and he's like, I'm going to, I want to do a sermon series but I want to do stuff that's going to impact the congregation. So at the end of the service, we're going to pass around this bucket and pieces of paper and you can write down the topics that you want me to talk about. I'm going to read all of them and I'll do a couple sermons on there. I wrote "Space, Are We Alone?" Okay, on the piece of paper, and I dropped it in the bucket. I didn't write my name on it, and so a couple Sundays later, he's like, and he said, "Listen, I did find some topics, but we're not going to do that exercise anymore. There was literally someone who wanted me to talk about aliens. I think it's better that I pick sermon topics." Now, I never fessed up to it.
No,
but
of
I
course
was only
not.
half joking. Why not? Why not talk about these topics? Annie, you're a preacher, right?
Yes.
You craft sermon series. What do you think of my triad there? Cryptozoology,
I think that
ghosts,
you just changed
aliens.
my sermon topic for October 13th.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
you're
going
talking to a
straight
preacher.
for ghosts. I'm going
Yes.
ghosts, ghost, are they real? Question mark. A study on the ghost of Samuel.
I'm not gonna lie. If I'm like trying to download some sermon pods to get my to get my spiritual food in my workout, and I'm like looking Craig Rochelle. Let's see, he's got one about anxiety, that looks good. One about loving your neighbor. One ghost. Yeah. There's a ghost sermon.
Man, can you imagine Samuel? He's like up in heaven living his life, and suddenly someone like rings the doorbell that he has to come interact with Saul, and he's like, no. Oh man.
Literally, he
the
said,
Witch of
like, "Why'd
Endor."
you bring me up?" Oh,
Yeah.
Here's
Man,
what
this
I
is
think. I
very
think, Andy, you
interesting.
can correct me on this. Here's why I think they don't. I think there's two reasons that pastors know it's getting controversial. The kids don't want to hear. They don't want parents to be calling in like my kid's scared because you talked about ghosts in the sermon or whatever. I think that's one reason. That's valid or whatever. But I think the other one is, and I've believed this for a long time, I think pastors worry too much about the practical application part of sermons because they always need that little take home, that little so here's what you can do this week. And sometimes I don't need Sometimes I just want to hear a cool story from the Bible. So the Bible doesn't work.
Sometimes I just want a good old ghost story.
You know what? After the story of David and Goliath, the Bible just moves on. It doesn't stop and say like what each of these little stones, one was courage, one was faith, one or whatever. They just said, you know what? He used a slingshot and he killed Goliath and he cut his head off with his own sword. Moving on. Anyway, here's what David did next. I think that your ghost sermon, which you're going to do, and I hope you wait until I'm back in the States, because I definitely will go. I would love to hear you preach on it. I don't think you need to worry about the like, and so my brothers and sisters, here is what our Lord meant for us to understand
today.
Just be like ghosts in the Bible.
Wait, can I end with an acronym of GHOST?
Yeah.
Ooh, if Rick Warren
then
did
it's the
this,
best
it'd be
of
an
both
acronym.
worlds.
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
holy,
Yeah.
awesome, kind of works.
What?
Saved. That's what we are.
By the way, isn't that the worst in a sermon too, where you think they're wrapping up and he's like, and that's why I think it's important to remember these 5 points. And you're like, are you kidding? There's a whole point thing?
5
I thought we were done.
I thought you were
If
on
it
the
was a
third
sermon
point.
about ghosts,
I
you'd
didn't
be
know
like,
there's.
thank the good Lord we're not done yet. I was hoping that he or she was going to keep going, and now they've
I
stopped.
audibly show my displeasure when that happens in a sermon.
Oh,
where
what do
it's
you
like,
do?
okay. Or just, yeah, did someone just hoot in the back? No, I was sighing dramatically because I realized what I thought was a concluding point was really just the beginning. You haven't even got to the points yet. We're fine without the points. I've learned enough. And you've managed to ignore Ghost once again. So yes.
My faith feels incomplete because you never bring up ghosts in the Bible.
Listen, I'm going to be on a national platform on a podcast, and somebody is going to ask me what I believe about ghosts. You know what I got to tell them? I don't know, because no pastor has ever taught me. And I'm going to draw my own conclusions, and that they're real.
That's dangerous.
And everywhere is super haunted. Thanks a lot, Pastor. Thanks a lot. And you don't have to make my alien request was not in jest. I really wanted
And this is
an alien.
a very fascinating. I'm not being sarcastic at all. This is very fascinating to me.
I know. I'm literally thinking about this, like in the sense that, like, okay, I was raised like, okay, there's good and evil, and like,
spirits.
okay,
There's a
so you
spiritual
have,
realm. Is that what you mean?
yeah, of course, and
Yeah.
like in the, like, okay, those horror movies that talk about ghosts or the haunted this or that, whatever. Even if there is something, it's demonic and. Like dismiss it completely. But if you read, and so think about so many things about our current society. It's like, well, what does the Bible say about X issue?
Yeah.
It's vague or it's not directly addressed. And we fill in the blanks a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. About the interaction with ghosts, the dead people. It is right there in the Bible in 1 Samuel. I mean, Saul went and sought the wisdom of Samuel, and it's like, okay, they had a whole conversation and went through a medium. I mean, like, this is crazy. Like,
And
Christians
Samuel probably was like, I thought I was done with Saul. I thought I'd done everything
This
I had to do. This guy is who called me down here.
But not only that,
I
there's a
didn't like
lot.
this guy.
There's a lot about in about the supernatural that's in the Bible that is ignored, and like you were saying, Cameron, I think for reasons of convenience, because they're too complicated and weird to talk about. But like Dallas Willard has a book where he talks about, the Bible's clear there are other gods. Like
John Mark Comer writes about this too.
Yeah, there are gods. Like in the Bible, there are principalities. There's a reason why he's called the Lord of Lords, and to have no other gods before him, because the insinuation is there are other gods that operate in the spiritual realm. Like that's John Mark Comer writes about it, Dallas Willard writes about it, but I've never once heard it addressed in a sermon, just because I feel like it's easier to talk about ideas that have some practical life implication than like super interesting stuff that's actually in the Bible.
But my understanding of it, and I'm no theologian, but my understanding of it, just kind of in my, upbringing in the church, was that in that time, the Romans and different, parts of society worship different gods, and that the nomenclature of the Lord of Lords was like, this is the one true God. This is actually the only true God.
Yeah.
And it is the God that is, makes all your gods go away. I mean, it was just kind of dismissive that it's idolatry and stuff. I didn't see it as theological that these gods are operating in the spirit realm and they are worth worshiping, or some people worshiping. That it's like, no. Your gods, what you think are gods, are not gods. This is the one true God. That's what I always thought.
That's what John Mark Comer's book, God Has a Name.
Yeah.
The whole thing is about this, because it's about how we should actually call him Yahweh, because he has a name, because there are other gods, and the name of our God is Yahweh, and he is greater than the other gods. It changed my perspective on all those scriptures you mentioned, Jesse, when I read God Has a Name.
Yeah. And I mean, even stuff like another kind of like weird story that's in the Bible is like the Nephilim, like this hybrid, half demon, half human that ruled the large parts of the world for a long time. And that God ended up partly sending the flood down to wipe out this supernatural race that was, persecuting mankind. Like, it's a weird story, but no one, it's largely kind of ignored.
Well, it wasn't ignored in the movie Noah with Russell Crowe, because the rock monsters were very real.
Yeah.
Were very cool. And I believe there should be representation of rock. And people laughed at them. We laughed at them. We were part of the problem there. I admit to it. I can own up to it. I'm not too big to admit my own mistakes. I made fun of the rock monsters. Now I'm wishing there's a sermon out there that addressed Nephilim, potential rock monsters.
I think there is a lot of Nephilim stuff you can listen to and read about.
Oh, I know. I know, Andy.
I
know, but I'm having to re-listen to
much
weird.
Much of it created by me.
I shouldn't get this type of Bible lesson from weird paranormal podcasts that, honestly, I don't know what they believe, but it's out there. But no one's giving me it. I got to go somewhere. It's a real shame. It's a real shame.
All right, Louis Giglio, if you're listening, Passion 2019. This New Year's Eve.
Hey, I would love, because we interview a lot of leaders and thought leaders in the church on the show. I would love the next time we have like one of, a David Platt, Christine Kane, like a really thoughtful Bible teacher, to pop the ghost question just out of nowhere,
Hey, we do that sometimes. Like, we know what we need for the article or the podcast segment. And then we'll while we have you on, here's 5 other questions that we might use throughout the year for other, things. We could throw the what does the Bible say about ghosts, or are ghosts real, in that mix. Yeah. I think that's absolutely valid.
All right, I'm going to do it.
And then if they go, no, ghosts aren't real, we go, well, what about 1 Samuel?
Well, tell that to the Witch of Endor. I don't know that one. Oh, that's weird. They didn't teach that in seminary. I know, it's been ignored for a long time now, hasn't it?
Oh my gosh.
Now, I would like to introduce to an acronym that I have. It's called Spooky Spooky, and it's a lot of points. So sit back and let me school you, NT Wright.
In the last 10 minutes of my sermon, I'd like to go get into my acronym, my big take home. Now, this will spell out the word paranormal supernatural activity within the Bible, starting with the Burnett's.
All right, moving the show along. Stay tuned. Up next, it's Slices. You're listening to Shade. The song is Thunder. At the beginning of the podcast, you heard Influence Music and Michael Ketterer with Rebels. All right, we'll go a little quick on this one since we went a little long on the spiritual theology lesson on the last segment. Okay, it's time for
Slices.
What you just heard there was good versus evil battling with the swords, and they were...
And a shofar.
The shofar versus the swords.
That literally is the soundtrack to the Battle of Armageddon. Like the shofar enacts, they come at each other, and then all the swords.
The only problem is, I don't think in the Battle of Armageddon, the Jesus and the forces of good and the devil will be facing off with fencing swords. I don't think it'll be a fencing match. I mean, it could be. It could be, but that'd
be very different.
Yeah, it'd be very different.
I mean, our Bibles are a sword of the Spirit, all right? So we can...
I'm just saying our sound effects doesn't sound like medieval. It sounds like
Yeah.
I mean, Tyler, you're in France. That's like probably the national sport there, fencing. It looks like a very
there are
French
swords
thing
on
to
every
do.
street corner. It's the national currency over here.
All right, what do you have, Jesse?
All right, I have a twofer, but I know we did a lot of ghost talk, so I'll keep it reasonably quick here. So you've always heard, I'm sure most of you guys have heard the old saying, like, it's not a great idea to go grocery shopping while hungry, because you will tend to make purchases that you normally wouldn't make. Like, you would see stuff that appeals to you and you would buy it. So now new research has shown, and they actually looked at a group of like 50 participants to confirm this, to show that actually you shouldn't make any big decisions while hungry. So, people were given like hypothetical scenarios, and some before, some after lunch. And in what the study bore out is that when people are hungry, they tend to make decisions that will offer more immediate satisfaction, but end up being not as good in the long term. So, like, you know, if you're making like an investment, they you know, in the study, they specifically said, like, if you're going to meet with like a bank about a lending situation, it's way better to go in having eaten, because hunger, like on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is so high up to the top. And when you're hungry, your brain starts thinking more impulsively. So the moral of the story is don't.
That feels true. That's why people get hangry, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Essentially, like, hangry is a thing, but it also literally can cloud your judgment. So I felt like that was an interesting research, you know, to throw out there. But I want to talk about one other study, and Huck, you wrote about this actually on the site this week, about a new study from Christian higher education that says students who choose to attend evangelical colleges are more likely to experience spiritual struggles than their mainstream counterparts, or even students who attend mainline Christian colleges. So they looked at surveys from more than 14,000 students at 136 colleges and universities. And they found that students at evangelical colleges are more likely to be uncertain of their beliefs and disillusioned with their Christian upbringings than other students. So the shift, they actually come, according to the story, actually being at the evangelical college has something to do with this disillusionment, because they report when they come into school, they're very secure in their faith and they're very secure in their background. By junior year, the research shows that a lot has shifted. And so that's particularly at evangelical schools. I went to an evangelical college. I know, Cameron, you did as well. What do you guys?
Not me.
Yeah. What do you guys think about this research, and kind of, you know, what it kind of says about Christian higher education? I mean, I think one reason is because these colleges have blatantly been ignoring ghosts for decades. And as soon as they find out about the Witch of Endor, like, something's going on here.
We talked about this on yesterday's Relevant Daily, Tyler and I did, and it was absolutely my observation going to a Christian university, coming in, you're on fire for God, I'm a freshman, and then you look around and you notice like all the upperclassmen are jaded. Not all, but most.
Yeah.
And
It's
I
a
kind of
thing.
go,
It's a thing.
What happens over these next 4 years, you know? And I don't know what it is about the environment. It's just kind of like, I think a big part of it is a lot of the kids who go to Christian universities kind of grew up in very, Christian homes and lived in a pretty bubble life, and then came to a Christian university, and all of a sudden they're on their own for the first time, and they're going, wait, why do I believe what I believe? And they've never actually had a healthy process of having to understand their faith, defend their faith, be in relationship or friendship with people who don't believe the way they believe. And so like they, all of a sudden, like, you pull, it's like a Jenga thing. You pull one log out or pull one thread and the whole thing unravels. And it's just like, I don't know that the Christian universities like really even most, now Huck had a different experience, but I don't know that most even really embrace that process of questioning and doubt, and then help you come out the other side stronger for that process. And so here we are, like, in this environment where nobody's really acknowledging it, and you're just starting to question everything, and you feel like you're the only one, or maybe you find a couple of other friends who also are, and then you just kind of go this other direction.
And I'll tell you, as a teacher and a preacher and a speaker that goes and does college chapels and required convocations, it is kind of known in our world that there is not a harder crowd than Christian college kids who are forced to go to chapel 3 times a week.
I bet.
I mean, they are like,
hit them with a ghost sermon.
They are, it is brutal.
Bring a ghost story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Bring a ghost
right?
story.
Now I
Get
know.
a ghost story.
Now I know the trick.
Yes.
But it's what you're saying, Cameron. It's that like they're forced to sit there and listen to me or one of me 3 times a week. And when I went to Georgia, we didn't ever get that kind of stuff. So if a Bob Goff came to town, or I remember when Angela Thomas came to town, we went nuts because we couldn't believe we were getting to hear in Athens, Georgia, such a respected Christian teacher that came in from somewhere else, where some of these private Christian universities and Christian schools get that level of teaching 3 times a week.
Yeah, it's like been there, done that. And it's like, and then all of a sudden you you take it for granted what you have and you want to see what else is out there. And you start to, kind of push the boundaries and ask questions and whatever. It makes sense. Like, it's just almost like, yeah.
They interviewed
Tyler,
a few people. They interviewed a few people, and this was my stated experience. I went to Moody Bible Institute in Chicago, and it was the Moody Bible Institute in Chicago.
I want one NFL player, by the way, to come from Moody.
Right, I was about to say.
Yeah.
And
John Van Norman.
There was a
Moody Bible Institute linebacker.
There was a phrase that went around there that said being the best time in your life to be a heretic is at a Christian college, because you're surrounded by people who can help kind of guide and shepherd you through that deconstruction experience. So you have these authorities and these experts you can take your questions to. They can help you. Now, that was said, and whether or not people actually felt that was people were like accepting and open to their doubts is kind of I think that's a fair question. I'm not sure everybody who went to my school at least would say they had this same experience there. But a number of the professors that were spoken to in the report about this did say that they weren't surprised, really, these professors at different evangelical colleges. And then in some cases, it's actually the stated goal. We want to challenge students in their faith. Yeah. We want to push them and see if they can push them beyond where they were when they came in, so that hopefully by the time they leave, by the time they graduate, they've experienced some of the cerebral intellectual tests to their faith that they would sooner or later anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think partly too, I mean, this is anecdotal. I don't think this is in the research, but I think to a degree, cynicism is contagious. And, once you have a couple of cynical people in an environment like a Christian college, that cynicism tends to spread. Like, I don't.
Cynicism is contagious.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like that. That's true.
That should be a sermon.
I know.
So is gratefulness, though. So is gratitude, right? Yeah. Gratitude is as contagious as cynicism. And so we have to, I think so. I genuinely think if you show up work every day and you show up with an attitude of gratefulness, I almost said an attitude of gratitude. If you show up with an attitude of gratefulness, that's going to spread as much as cynicism. It may take a little bit longer, but I think they are 2 sides of the same coin, and you get to decide what everybody sees.
I mean, I got to be honest with you. I mean, building teams for the last 19 years, like, you have one bad seed and it absolutely spreads through the company like a cancer, like especially a small team like ours. And then if you were to swap that person out for somebody who did come in, like, not necessarily just grateful for, their job or whatever, but just had a positive attitude about life,
Right.
It definitely changes the temperature of the team. I mean, you're absolutely right. The influence that has. That's interesting.
I heard a great sermon. One time we conjured up Samuel, and it's called The Attitude of Gratitude. It's great stuff. So
I would be very grateful if somebody would talk about ghosts, and there's a practical application for you. Make me grateful. A spirit of gratefulness.
Oh, no. A ghost of gratefulness. All right. What do you have, Annie?
Okay. So I was reading this article about how, especially thinking after our great conversation with Mike Foster on Friday about suicide and depression and kind of where we are in that world. I found this article that talks about how the millennial generation is going to therapy more than any generation before us. And then I found, y'all ready? I found this other one that I thought was here's a tiny twofer. That's the start of the twofer. Here's the twofer. A therapist who has been working with millennials for over 5 years says that they have a number one complaint that they've seen across the board in their millennial clients. Do you want to guess what it is?
No.
Not enough spirit.
Everyone's like, no, I don't want to guess.
Ghost content in their houses of worship.
That's it. Because what the problem is that a lot of Gen Xers are kind of labeled as lazy and, this counselor is a Gen Xer and he's saying that, millennials are labeled as lazy and like kind of unprepared for adult life. But the biggest complaint he sees is that millennials have too many choices. That the thing they come in with the most anxiety about is their amount of choices. What do you think about that?
And like, I assume in terms of college and
decision fatigue, like the idea that
there's you can choose from and
relationship. I do think, I think it's interesting because it seems like the younger generation seems to be much less pragmatic than older generations. And what I mean by that is for a lot of older generations, if I've talked to my grandfather or something, it was we did our profession because it was the most practical thing we could do. I worked in this factory because it was close by and provided a good income, and I didn't really think too much about it. There was a pragmatism, even when it came to marriage and relationship. It just seems like decisions there weren't enough. I feel like decisions become very emotionally involved these days when I don't necessarily think they need to be. I mean, I think there's so much emotional baggage we tie to every major decision that instead of just saying objectively, well, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to look back. I'm not going to second guess myself, because there's a lot of second guessing when it comes to big decisions too, that I feel probably adds to that sort of fatigue, because you keep relitigating your decisions over and over again.
That's what he says. This counselor says that's the biggest thing, is that for the generations before us, there weren't as many choices. And while they look down at us, but as they look down generationally, they go, you've got so many more choices. I bet that's so easy. And the reality is that the amount of choices makes a lot of people in our generation and younger than us actually feel overwhelmed and stressed and feel like they don't know how to make these big decisions about how to spend their money or what career path to take or who to marry. It just feels like there's more choices than ever before. And it's actually causing more stress for us than joy.
For I think it was on an episode of the Love and Money podcast where you talked to someone who was a minimalist, they're philosophically a minimalist, and they've written books about it. But part of that philosophy was the limitation of choices, even on a small scale, limit the amount of clothes you have in your closet, because it limits the amount of time you spend making a choice about what you're going to wear that day. Limit what's in your pantry. Limit, there's a freedom in limiting, putting self limitations on your choices, even for small decisions. And that's sort of one of the philosophies of kind of the modern minimalism movement,
Yeah.
All right. What do you have, Huck? From the future.
We'll keep it short because I know we're running low on time here. But I was interested. This is these are related. So I was super interested to come across this study that said that most the number one concern for American teenagers. Probably this won't be a big surprise, but for the American teenager, what social issue do you think is the number one biggest concern they're facing?
Outside
number
of
one biggest concern.
Outside of
wait. Social concern? You just said social concern.
Yes, they're
being left out. FOMO.
Issue. Not social, not friendships, but their cause.
Yeah,
they care about most.
Gun violence.
Socio-political. Environmental.
Yeah, it has to be environmental. Yeah.
Environmentalism. Yeah. And that led to the study of far and away, this is a new record for any sort of activism among any generation since they've started surveying this. 24%, almost 1 in 4 teenagers have participated in some sort of either a school walkout, a protest, or called a government official about climate change. some sort of, and these are all people who, for a non-voting age demographic, this is the most activism, political activism that's been recorded around a single issue, right? So that led me down a rabbit hole. And I'd be curious to get y'all's thoughts about this, because I was not aware that this was even something that was under consideration. There's a very robust amount of conversation about this. Should the voting age remain at 18, or should it be lowered to try to spur more involvement for people who are already already being activists, they're already interested in political issues, but they obviously don't have a say in this? And there's, I believe, Andrew Yang, Democratic candidate for the presidency, has proposed lowering the voting age to 16. I've seen some places say that if you can fill out a ballot on your own, you should be allowed to vote. There's a whole robust study around this on that some people have considered bringing to proposal, like final legislation, just to say if anybody in the same household, because there's no reason to think that just because you're young doesn't mean you're any more or less involved or aware than somebody who's older. We've obviously all know people who vote who probably don't know a lot about what they're voting for, but they go in there and fill out a ballot anyway. So I was curious why you just wanted to throw open swim a little bit. Do you think there's a case to be made for lowering the voting age? And if so, how low do you think it should go?
Okay, I mean, let's be real. I mean, voter suppression is a real thing. Gerrymandering is a real thing done by people in power to suppress the voice of people without power. Okay,
Right.
And if
Right.
the demographic shifts show that the younger generation oppose this status quo on certain significant issues, gun violence, environmentalism, whatever, the powers that be will do everything they can to suppress that voice. There's no way there will be any proposal to lower the voting age until the generation that's currently in high school gets into power, knowing that they need to empower the next generation. And in 20 years, I could see it shifting. But until then, until this current power base dies off, literally dies off, they will do everything they can to retain their
I agree
role.
that realistically, the odds of this are small, but I'm wondering if you think the case could be made for high schoolers, middle schoolers, even elementary students going to the polls.
When you take an issue like gun violence, and there's been, these horrific school shootings, there is this unfairness to the fact that a lot of the victims and people who are affected by federal legislations don't have a voice in that legislation,
Right.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
so I do think there is a very strong case to be made that lowering the voting age would give people a voice that are actually affected by real world legislation. I mean, you could take something like education policy. The people who are actually in school don't get a say in the policy. I think you can,
Yeah, but hold on. That's like asking your kid what time they think their bedtime should be. Well,
not
a
necessarily.
6-year-old doesn't know what's best for them sometimes.
But I don't feel like their voice I don't feel like they should have no power. Especially, I'm not saying all the way down to elementary school.
But
who don't
literally, I asked my 9-year-old who's in 4th grade what his favorite class is, and it's recess. And if we were to ask him about the educational policy and how they spend their time, he would eliminate math. And it's just no, that's not an option.
But I think
right now.
But we're not
raise
talking
it to
about putting him in Senate. We're talking about
Right.
voting for candidates
Yeah,
who
that's
hopefully
right.
have
That's
better. They're not going to try
And
to.
I wonder
chase
about
the-
the. I mean, here's the other honest truth: is if a 13-year-old can vote, that means that our officials and politicians who want to be in office have to speak in a way that a 9-year-old can understand what they are standing for. And I bet a lot more adults would show up at the polls if the politicians were using language that everyone could understand.
Well, I don't know if you guys watched the last Democratic debate, but that was addressed with the idea of record players being played in the house for the benefit of children. And
Going for
then,
that coveted,
then I heard
the coveted vinyl.
I heard this
demographic.
story about this gangster named Corn Pop that all the kids are talking about. I don't know if you guys saw that video, but it is insane. Joe Biden rambling about a confrontation he had with a gang member named Corn Pop at the neighborhood pool back in the day. Those are the type of issues that are going to appeal to the young people of this country.
I definitely agree that there shouldn't be we're not trying to lower we don't want people to start chasing the like 6-year-old demographic by promising candy and it for school lunch from now on. But offering them a voice in serious legislation that is being proposed by adults around things like, I think gun violence is a great issue. Climate change is also a good issue because the next generation is going to be the one to have to deal with the ramifications of the ones that this generation is kind of willing to punt down they're already willing to punt to them eventually. So why not give them a say right now already? And I think I see the case. This comes across a little more libertarian than I usually get, but I think it's kind of an interesting idea, and I just was I wanted to bring it up as a slice, mostly so we could all chew the fat together.
That's what I'm saying. They'd have to make it they would have to make it less complex, right? Which I think is yes. Jason.
Go ahead.
Nope. Say it. Make fun. Go.
I was going to say.
I saw your face. You're ready.
I was going
Give it
to
to
say,
me.
and it also might mean that like Bernie Sanders would have to make like TikTok videos, and that'd be hilarious. What is this thing? How does this work? I don't even know what a button is. You kids, you vote for me.
Bernie Sanders doing his Old Town Road covers on the new Old Town Road remix.
The kids want to hear this. It's a whole town road.
The horses in the road. The 99% are covered for by taxes.
I mean, he's down with Killer Mike and Cardi B.
He would be the
candidate on TikTok.
He's got the right people on his team who can help navigate TikTok. I think Joe might be in a little bit of trouble there. I don't know if anybody on his team knows what TikTok is.
His entire TikTok feed would be a picture of his finger. Like, did I get it? Did I hit? Did it start? Did it start?
Biden knows two functions on his phone: how to actually answer phone calls and then make the text bigger. Because it's so hard to see on the normal font. Right. You ever look at like your parents' phones? It's like, good Lord, I didn't even know the font could get that big on a text message.
Well, that'll do it for Slices. Stay tuned. Up next, we're going to take a minute and tell you about the new issue of Relevant.
I just need something to get me through the night. Oh, a new obsession, something to hold in my sights. I just need something to get me through the night.
You're listening to Joywave. Song is Obsession. Well, before we get to our featured guest in the next segment, Malcolm Gladwell, we want to tell you about the brand new issue of Relevant, issue 101. If you remember, issue 100 was kind of a unique edition for us. It didn't have any normal features, and we just kind of did something totally out of the box for issue 100. Well, 101, we're back with the content mix that you're used to, and we're excited for you to see this issue. On the cover is Malcolm Gladwell, and it's also packed with a ton of great content that we're excited about. It's in motion. If you're a subscriber, it is on its way to you. It's I think it's out on newsstands now. And for those of you who haven't seen the issue, you can go to relevantmagazine.com and view the whole thing there, actually. So you can go check it out. But we want to tell you about some of the highlights from the issue and some of the, kind of why we did what we did the way we did it, Yeah. So Malcolm's on the cover, but we aren't going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because we're going to talk to him in a few minutes. So
you'll see.
Yeah, you'll see. Yeah. But the issue is, kind of that mix of faith and life and culture and justice that people kind of know us for. And not only do we have like a thought leader like Malcolm, but we sit down with one of our favorite comedians, Jim Gaffigan, and his wife, Jeannie, who have a crazy story, a real faith story that they told us about. Jesse, you talked to them, right?
Yeah. So Jim's wife, Jeannie, is also his like co-writer, and they, in addition to being married and being the parents to the 5 children, work very closely together. And recently, she ended up having the diagnosis that she had a very large brain tumor. and it threatened her life. And, thankfully, the doctors were able to treat her and remove the tumor. But it really challenged the way that they think about faith. Jim, in his comedy, frequently kind of jokes about being a Catholic, but this made a lot of things real for them, and it established kind of a new perspective on faith. And they really opened up about it. Like, they were not mincing words about how much their faith really impacted them during this time. It was a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, Jim's been clean and kind of has some Jesus jokes, and is kind of known for their Catholic faith, but to see how their faith strengthened so much during that crisis was really heartening. It was awesome. Also in the issue, we talked to some of our favorite bands. The band Joseph is in the issue. We talked to Han about their evolution as a group as well. We talked to Andy Mineo about more than his new album. Reflecting on the loss of his mom and kind of what it's like being an artist in the digital era and the double-edged sword of like emotional honesty, which is something that he's experiencing right now with his new project. We also have some pretty hard-hitting issues. We look at probably the largest humanitarian crisis that nobody's talking about, and what's going on in Yemen.
Yeah. So, right now there are millions of people on the brink of starvation in Yemen because of a conflict that's been going on for a while that the U.S. has actually played a pretty big role in. And right now it's being debated in Washington about what role that America should continue to play in this conflict. So in this story, we wanted to kind of explain the context because it is a little complicated how we got there, but also demonstrate the need, which, we talked to people from Oxfam, who is one of the only humanitarian organizations being able to work in the region, and really eye-opening stats, but also some practical ways that people can help.
Yeah. We also have, I don't know. We've kind of talked about this topic for a while, like what should we do? How should we handle it? But talking about Christians and weed, I think a lot of times, or for years and years, the church could just say, well, don't do it. It's illegal. That's bad. Well, it's not illegal in a lot of places anymore. So theologically and practically, how should Christians think about weed? And it was a fascinating take on the topic, I thought.
Yeah, really stirred the pot with that one.
Oh,
yeah. You're not just blowing smoke either.
Oh. It was painful. We also
have... It was a joint effort.
Oh, no.
I'm going to be blunt. I worked very hard on that story.
We also talked to Logan Browning, who was on the podcast last week. She's the star of Dear White People, and we talk about how her faith informs her activism. We talk about spiritual disciplines, 4 things that you can kind of embrace to break out of a spiritual funk. And we have pieces by Rebecca Lyons, David Platt, Levi Lusko. We have our normal mix of we brought the drop back. If you remember the drop in years past, it was kind of our place to kind of highlight emerging artists that we love. And we brought it back with issue 101. Titus Andronicus is in it, Dreamers and Leon. It's an amazing mix of artists. We have selects, we have current, we have all the stuff that you like in Relevant. Issue 101 of Relevant. It's out now. Go check it out at relevantmagazine.com. Great job, guys. It was fun putting together a normal issue again.
Yeah. I know this dance.
Yeah. This one was very high-minded. It's very high-minded.
Oh, no. All right. Speaking of high-minded, stay tuned. Up next, it's our conversation with Malcolm Gladwell.
I'm sorry for the way that I am. Got issues that I don't understand. So every time you ask me, baby, alright, then I stop like a deer in the headlights. I'm scared to love you like that. So sorry for the way I am.
You're listening to Gavin Haley and Ella Voss. The song is The Way I Am. Malcolm Gladwell is a best-selling author and the host of the very popular podcast, Revisionist History. In both his books and podcast, Gladwell explores misunderstood stories and forgotten ideas that reveal bigger truths about the world. In the most recent relevant cover story, which is releasing right now, he explains how an ancient concept, which was championed by Jesus himself, can actually help us solve big problems today. Jesse, you talked to Mr. Gladwell. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I really want to talk to him. As listeners of his podcast series know, he has developed a fascination with Jesuit philosophy, which is like very practical theology, particularly this idea of casuistry, which is a way of examining problems by foregoing principles and instead embracing nuance. And so I wanted to start by asking him to give a biblical example of Jesus kind of putting that into action. And he brought up the story of the centurion, and here's how Malcolm Gladwell described it.
The centurion comes to him, you know the story better than I do, but, and says, I have a servant who is ill. Will you come to my house? And Jesus' response is, I see that you're someone of faith. I don't need to come to your house. I can, and their point on this is, think about the way Jesus responded to the centurion. He listened very closely to his story, and he focused on the centurion as a man. What he didn't do is start by saying, but wait a minute, you're not, Jewish, you're not circumcised, I don't even know if you're a believer. He didn't kind of start with broad general questions about the appropriateness of the request. Rather, what he did is he started with the individual, and he descended into the particulars, that lovely Jesuitical phrase. He listened to that person as a person, listened carefully, figured out what was on his mind, and figured out what it would take to alleviate this man's suffering. The man was suffering because his servant was ill, right? And Jesus' focus was entirely on the particulars of this guy's situation. And they were saying that's where St. Ignatius, that's the example that St. Ignatius was pointing to of what it means to behave in a moral manner in the world, which is don't get caught up in all these broader general questions. Your first obligation is to listen to the person that you are attempting to serve.
Yeah, it's a really powerful idea that is based on that kind of simple idea that instead of reacting based on sort of emotional or principle stands, is to actually not just listen to what someone is saying, but not just to hear what they're saying, but actually listen. What's the words behind the words? And so it's really keyed in on this idea of listening, which he thinks is so why Jesus was such a powerful communicator and such a, influential leader, because he understood listening. And here's what Malcolm Gladwell said about that.
All of these Jesuits I was talking to, they would come back to this idea that casuistry is about listening. That's fundamentally, and there's something, that is what Jesus was fundamentally, was a fantastic listener, right? Yes, he does that again and again with the people that he meets.
And that idea of listening, I feel like, is really kind of counter to a lot of things we see in culture, because, especially in kind of hot take culture, where instead of like really understanding problems, people want to have these kind of quick visceral responses. But in order to really embrace this method that Malcolm Gladwell is talking about, it also requires us to identify our own biases and listen to ourselves, understand why we think the way we do regularly, always challenge the ideas that we have. And here's why he says that's such an important part of living life as a Christian.
Well, the Jesuits would say that you uncover those things. That is the function of discernment. That is why we take the time to introspect, to pray, to sort of attend to our inner lives and to kind of scrutinize our behavior in that way. There's a reason why reflection is built into religious practice, because that's the only way we discover things like that. The only way that we uncover our biases and weaknesses and failings and things.
I want to play one final clip that I felt like was really interesting. And this was his most unexpected answer, that, I wanted to ask why he feels like culture is going the other way. Instead of us becoming better listeners and more nuanced, there's more echo chambers than ever. Society is polarized, and a lot of people just are very unkind to each other. I think you see this bore out on social media a lot. And I wondered what he theorized about what was causing this polarized culture. I'll play this final clip. It's just under 2 minutes, but it's really interesting what he has to say. If you can play this one, Chandler.
I always wonder whether what we're seeing is the consequences of a retreat from religiosity and spirituality in our society. That you pay a price. So you have what we had for centuries and centuries, we had at the core of our society a set of ideas, of religious ideas, which emphasized things like humility, emphasized things like, respect for your fellow man, emphasized things like, I could go on. We could make a list of kind of religious virtues. If in the space of 2 generations, you remove the centrality of that set of ideas, you're going to pay a price. There's going to be a consequence. Well, if you don't have the reinforcement of religious practice saying that you have a moral obligation to take care of the poor and the suffering, or to remind you that you need to be humble in the eyes of God, or, I could go on. Like, you take that out of society changes. And maybe people become a lot less respectful of others, or people become a lot less cautious and humble in putting forth their own opinions, or I can't help but think that at least part of it is a consequence of this very dramatic and sudden removal of the centrality of faith in contemporary society.
Yeah, that was really unexpected, I think, because I think a lot of people see a lot of kind of liberally minded people, and particularly intellectuals, will see a retreat from religious tradition as like a positive thing for society, like, coming up with new understandings of how the world works that isn't based on this centuries old, power institution. But I love what he says there, that no, it's having the opposite effect. It's making us less kind. It's making us less respectful. If you don't have an institution at the center of your life that says remain humble before God, it's going to take a toll on society. And that's what I felt like that was a fascinating and unexpected observation by him.
That was Malcolm Gladwell. Make sure to check out more of this conversation and the cover story in the new issue of Relevant.
The Relevant Podcast is brought to you by the Wheaton College Graduate School. With more than 20 master's, doctoral, and certificate programs, the Wheaton College Graduate School is preparing servant scholars to engage the world as humanitarian responders, therapists, theologians, biblical scholars, Christian camp leaders, and more. Find out how the Wheaton College Graduate School's flexible or residential programs will inspire, challenge, and equip you at wheaton.edu/relevant.
I am so blue. I make everyone explode. My friends, my enemies.
You're listening to Frankie Cosmos. The song is So Blue. All right, it's time for your feedback. Last week, we asked you, we got talking about grandparents' houses, grandma's houses in particular, and certain things that every grandmother's house had. And we asked you for the question of the week, what are the weirdest things in your grandparents' house? You hit us up on Twitter at Relevant Podcast, and you posted on the podcast episode page at relevantmagazine.com. Here are a few of our favorites.
This is a great list.
There's a lot.
Jessica had a twofer. There was a ton. Grandma had an armoire full of wigs, even though she wasn't bald. My uncles had to choose which one she'd wear when she was buried. The other grandma had a baby doll in a high chair in her dining room that had her hair made from her own head.
Oh my goodness.
I do feel like dolls, random, like fancy dolls sitting in
that's
chairs.
Definitely a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, dolls sitting in chairs.
It's a grandmother's house thing. Yeah.
This is crazy. This is like a Russian doll of weird things. So Whitney said the most awkward thing at my grandparents' house is turn or burn tracks. So I assume some sort of like Jack Chick tracks, strong KJV only, in the bathroom next to prescription testosterone cream, accompanied by a hand-painted wall decoration of an elderly couple in a bathtub together.
Oh, that's horrible. I really liked. Oh, I lost it. Oh, I really liked Ashley's where she said, "My Alabama grandma has a microwave from the 80s with flowers on it that she uses instead of the new one that came with her house." I love the idea that there's a microwave like in the cabinet as it should be, and then there's the flowery 80s one on the counter because she trusts it. I get it.
My parents had an 80s. They just got rid of it like 2 years ago, but it was an 80s microwave. I think they might have got it when they got married. I think it was like a wedding gift. You would stand by that and you would feel the radiation coming off giving you like wind. Like, it's zapping you. Like, you feel like you should be wearing a lead vest. Hannah said, my grandma had a little sign she created that she keeps above the TV, the handmade sign, typed out in an old English font on the TV that said, "Would Jesus watch this TV program with me?" And she said it's haunted her from her childhood.
That's good.
That's
what
a lot of shame. That's a lot of shame to carry with you. Jesus wouldn't watch TV.
So Garrett says, my grandma to this day has her fridge covered with pictures of all the grandkids. And she also has pictures of random families I've never met. When I asked her who they were, she said they came in the picture frame she bought and it was too cute to get rid of.
I love it. I love it. That's great. That's great.
Oliver said his grandmother has a full-size cast iron merry-go-round horse sitting in her living room. Why?
That sounds creepy.
Did you even get
creepy?
Ryan said, my grandma's house is filled with glass chickens. She doesn't live on a farm, and I don't remember a chicken ever being near her property. I'm not sure where the fascination originated. Many of them are covered dishes, thankfully with no nuts in them. So, chickens.
I like Carly's grandmother. Not only is she frugal, but she's really doing her part for the environment. Well, kind of, I guess. She always kept plastic silverware, like, the disposable kind for big family gatherings, and would always wash and reuse them the next time. I don't mind.
Yeah, that's good. I gotta give it up for. I did not know this. I want to hear more about this. Emily says the weirdest thing in my grandma Clark's house: the ashes of her dog, Lady. That's already pretty weird. But then we go. Fun fact. She was later illegally buried with these ashes. Her urn and Lady's urn share a grave together.
Gross.
What? Does Uncle Sam really have a say over what you decide to take with you? Even there, does he still get his sticky fingers into? Can't you just let her sleep? No wonder there are ghosts everywhere. They're not even allowed to rest in peace because the government's trying to take their dogs away from their ghost dogs away from them.
Kara said, my wonderful grandma had stacks and stacks and stacks of old newspapers in her cellar because she planned one day to complete the crossword puzzles inside them. She said these were next to a bazillion empty Country Crock tubs. So, Kara, grandma might be a hoarder. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like a tinderbox. Sounds like a fire waiting to happen. Sounds like definitely a fire hazard. Old dried up newspapers. JJ's grandmother's had his grandmother's house had a taxidermy squirrel my uncle supposedly shot accidentally when he was 6 and got very upset when it fell out of the tree and he realized it was dead. Now it sits in the hall to torture him every time he visits. What a weirdo. What a weird grandma. I'm sorry, but that's weird.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right, well, there's a lot more where that came from. Go check out our Twitter feed. They're great. Okay, it's time for this week's
editorial question of the week. Hey.
All right. Well, earlier in the show, we went to Sunday school, and I read First Samuel.
Yeah, I don't know that we've
3.
ever read scripture like that. That was sweet.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. It's powerful.
we got talking about biblical ghost stories. Well, for this week's question of the week, We want to know your ghost stories. Now, we're not talking about like seance-y stuff, but just, the creaking door thing when you stayed at the,
something
old
you can't explain.
Bed and
The old
breakfast on the Civil War battlefield sort of thing,
Yeah.
The little girl in her Elizabethan smock that you see
My
in the hallway at night.
sister texted me yesterday with a story like this because she's staying alone at my parents' new house. And when she woke up yesterday morning, there was a drawer open and an apple on the ground. And she was like, is our parents' new house haunted? And me and my other sister were like, yes. So we're looking for that level story. Why was the drawer open? Why is there an apple on the ground?
Is it a new house?
Ghost.
Like new construction?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Hey,
You
that's
want to hear a
haunted.
creepy one? This happened to me when I was in college. Cameron, do you remember? I think it's torn down now. I did a deep dive on the internet one day, the Camelot Hotel in Tulsa.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it was this old abandoned hotel that its heyday was like in the 60s. Like Elvis stayed there. It got really run down and they just abandoned it. And so it's this massive, spooky, old abandoned hotel. And we broke in one time and the lobby is like a massive atrium where you could tell they had like parties back in the day. And then it just surrounded with like the balconies of rooms all the way up. So like if you were to go out the door of your room,
Like
you
an
would look
embassy
down on
suites, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's an old, weird looking hotel called Camelot. So we start walking around, music starts playing from one of the rooms up above. And we just got the heck out of there. I'm not saying it was the ghost of Elvis, but I don't know. I don't know for
Haunted.
certain. So,
Haunted.
but I ran.
All right. Well, hit us up at Relevant Podcast, or you can post your longer ones on the podcast episode page at relevantmagazine.com. Well, many thanks to the episode's sponsor, David Platt's new book, Something Needs to Change. Make sure to check it out. It releases today. You can get it everywhere books are sold. Also, thanks to Malcolm Gladwell for joining us. His new book, Talking with Strangers, is also out now. And make sure to check out the cover story with him and all the other great content in issue 101 of Relevant. It's available at newsstands nationwide. Subscribers, your copies are on your way to you, and you can check it out. You can view the issue at relevantmagazine.com. If you want to subscribe, there's a great deal going on online as well. Okay, well, on that note, we will wrap things up. I'm Cameron Strang.
Chandler String.
I'm Jesse Carey.
I'm Tyler Huckabee.
And I'm Annie F. Downs.
I'm Samuel. What do you bring me here for?
Well, I'm Samuel. Ooh.
All right, we'll see you on Friday. Have a great week, everyone.
Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters! There's something weird, and it don't look good. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters!
Thank you for listening to the Relevant Podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to leave us a review on iTunes. Check out other shows from the Relevant Podcast Network in the podcast section at relevantmagazine.com. And while you're there, browse exclusive podcast merchandise at our online store. Make sure to subscribe to Relevant Magazine. Info is available at relevantmagazine.com/subscribe.
If you're seeing things running through your head, who can you call? Ghostbusters! An invisible man sleeping in your bed. Oh, who you gonna call?
What is this thing? How does this work? I don't even know what a button is. You kids, vote for me.
Relevant Podcast Network.